Every time I rewatch the Ninetales attack on Konoha, I think to myself, why in the world was Hiruzen left on the sidelines? Now, I'm not specifically speaking in a disparaging way toward Hiruzen. I'd like to bash on that dumb old man, but I still love him. I just so happen to blame him for every bad thing that happens in the world. And even that said, with as many ninjutsu as bro has, are we gonna say that there was absolutely no way he could get in? There wasn't one space-time ninjutsu that he knew that couldn't bypass it? If he really does know every ninjutsu developed by Konoha that's not clan-specific or Kekkei Genkai, then this means that any space-time ninjutsu known in Konoha, Hiruzen knows. Probably even Flying Raijin, though his ability to use it by himself is questionable. But I'm starting to lose myself in this hypothetical, and that's exactly why this is a good question. Say, for instance, Hiruzen managed to bypass that barrier by either slipping in before it formed or having had some sort of space-time ninjutsu. What could have happened next? Minato, Kushina, and Hiruzen versus the Ninetales instead of one tired Kage and a woman still aching from birth? Well, I want to know what happens, and I know I can't be the only one. So just sit right back and allow me to spin for ye a yarn of Hiruzen actually being a good Hokage. Revolutionary. Welcome to the Amagi. Only 25% of our viewers are subscribed, so if you're a fan of the video, please like and double check if you are subscribed. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video. The sound of fists banging against a barrier could be heard. From behind, there was a set of muffled voices speaking. "Lord Third, what are you doing in there? Get out here!" Hiruzen didn't look back or respond. His mind was already set on his target, the thing he had to fight back against. The barrier that separated everyone from the battle was likely intended to keep the Ninetales in, but also had the added benefit of keeping everyone else out. It created a safe space where Minato and Kushina could fight alone. No need to worry about anything getting in and getting hurt. Well, anything but Hiruzen, that is. And now here he was. Ignoring the pleas behind him, he began to walk deeper through the forest, only Monkey King Enma by his side due to the summoning contract he had. The two marched on into the forest towards the dust and cries of battle. Getting there, they saw Kushina on the ground, still struggling to keep the barrier up. The fact that she had as much chakra as she did to do this, even after having the Ninetales pulled from her, was a testament to the resilient nature of the Uzumaki clan, as well as their power to stand in the face of such debilitating chakra loss. "She's not gonna last much longer like this. If we don't hurry, she'll be beyond saving," Enma said, as if reading Hiruzen's mind. Hiruzen nodded. "Tend to Kushina. Keep her alive by any means necessary. I will aid Minato." Getting to Minato, he spoke. "What's the situation?" Hiruzen, "No time to be surprised," the old man said. "Tell me, what is the situation?" "Well, Kushina has the beast caught, but she no longer has the strength to pull it in. If she attempts it, the chakra expenditure will kill her and take the Ninetales with her. At this point, we both think that the chances she'll die is near 100%. Hiruzen shook his head. "No, so long as she's alive and hasn't overexerted herself too much, she'll be okay. I've seen people with far worse constitution pull through with proper medical care. We can save her, but the issue is, how?" "I was considering the Reaper Death Seal," Minato said. Hiruzen looked over in horror. "The Reaper? Minato, you know that will kill you. It's the only option we have. I don't know any other strong sealing jutsu that could seal up this beast." Hiruzen thought about it. "Then leave it to me. They don't call me the professor for nothing. I know every ninjutsu Konoha has access to, even a few they don't. Allow me to work on the seal. You just focus on keeping the beast busy," he said. "And what about Kushina?" Minato asked. "She'll be all right for now. Monkey King Enma is over there transferring chakra. He's taking the blunt of her sealing jutsu right now and trying to alleviate the chakra loss and stall for as much time as possible. But he can't hold back the arms of the clock for long. We need to hurry before his chakra gives out." "Tell me what to do," Minato said. "Keep the beast's attention. I'm going to try something," Hiruzen said. Putting his hands together, Hiruzen spoke. "Multi-shadow clone jutsu." Suddenly, 3 other Hiruzen showed up. They split into teams of 2 Hiruzen running toward the left and 2 toward the right. All the while, Minato was also using the multi-shadow clone jutsu, but having made far more clones than Hiruzen had to place the Ninetales' attack priority on him. The beast stomped about, even though Kushina's chains attempted to hold it. "Kushina," Enma said, "you need to let the Ninetales go. I know it's counterintuitive, but I'm trying to buy you as much time as possible, and you're wasting your energy with something that isn't really gonna help." I have to keep it away from Naruto, she shouted, pointing toward a baby laying on a padded altar. Enma looked up at the baby, then to Kushina, and back to Minato. He was putting it together. Their plan was to seal the beast into their child and give up their lives in the process. It's a good thing we got here when we did. You two were about to do something very desperate. Hiruzen, Enma called. We need a barrier on the Ninetales, he shouted. Hiruzen nodded. Minato, do you know the 4 Red Yang formation? Minato nodded. I do. Hiruzen then spoke. I need 4 of your shadow clones to erect one with us and the beast inside, and Kushina outside. It'll buy us more time. Minato nodded once again. 4 of his shadow clones peeled off and stood there, raising the ram hand sign. Suddenly, a barrier not unlike a crimson glass box formed around them. Now, let go of the seal, Enma said. Kushina's adamantine chains dissipated. The chains holding the beast back were released, and the chains that created a barrier over the battlefield fell as well. This allowed shinobi from outside to get in, which only helped their cause more. The shinobi that followed Hiruzen to the battle rushed in, only to receive orders from Enma to begin chakra donation to hopefully pull Kushina away from the red. They began to donate their chakra to her, further extending her lifespan. Hiruzen began to form hand signs. He touched the ground, causing sealing formulas to appear and spread out. And from those sealing formulas, chains shot out and covered the Ninetales. However, even with the Ninetales stalled, it wasn't enough. The beast is too strong, Hiruzen said. I'm too weak to subdue it. We need more help. Do you have any genjutsu, Minato? Minato shook his head. None that's strong enough to subdue the Ninetales, but I think I know someone who does. Then hurry and get them. I can't hold this thing forever. Minato nodded. One of his shadow clones performed the Flying Raijin and disappeared. Hiruzen tried to focus on his breathing and chakra regulation to ensure that he optimized his functions along with the seal to hold out for as long as possible without overworking himself. As they waited, eventually the clone returned, this time carrying Fugaku Uchiha in tow. Minato's clone began to explain to Fugaku what he needed to do. Do you remember when you said to me that you awakened that secret that the Uchiha clan so jealously conceal? Fugaku nodded. Well, if ever there was a time to use it, it's now. We can't control the beast alone, and we need you to use that power to subdue it. Can you help? Of course. All I need is for the beast to look at me, Fugaku said. Minato smiled. That'll be no issue at all. He teleported Fugaku into the barrier and let him go. Fugaku's Sharingan suddenly turned to Mangekyo Sharingan, and he began to jump up onto the beast, reaching its snout, causing it to look back at him. He turned around and made eye contact with his Mangekyo, causing the beast to stop in its tracks. He's got it, Minato said. Get clear, Hiruzen shouted. The clones of Minato dissipated, bringing the barrier down with it. Fugaku jumped from the beast's nose and made a run for it. Monkey King Enma saw that Hiruzen was now ready. He tapped the shinobi's shoulders. We need to get away from Kushina now, he said. Enma and the shinobi peeled off. Another clone of Hiruzen appeared and raced off to the area between the beast and Kushina. Weaving hand signs, he spoke. Sealing jutsu! Suddenly, the chains tightened around Kurama and shot straight from his nose to Kushina, lining the two. The sealing chains snapped from their seals on the ground and finished subduing the beast. The chain linking Kurama to Kushina began to reel him in like a fish. Still not fighting back, the chain dragged the tailed beast along the surface of the ground toward her. Once it got to her, the chakra began to pour in, slowly causing the Ninetales to turn transparent. Eventually, the beast disappeared and was completely absorbed within Kushina, a new 8-trigram seal forming over where the last had been. Her eyes rolling up, she fell back. All of Hiruzen's clones dissipated, and he fell to his knees. Enma raced out to the old Kage. Hiruzen, are you okay? He asked, helping the elderly man off the ground. Yes, I'll be okay. But more importantly, is Kushina all right? Enma looked over at the crowd of shinobi gathering around her, Minato on his hands and knees, trying to get her to wake up. Enma and Hiruzen drew closer. What if we were too late? He asked. Hiruzen then spoke. We should pray that we weren't. As they all looked on, Minato spoke. Kushina, open your eyes. You can't give in. Not now. The village needs you. Naruto needs you. I need you. So don't give up, okay? He held her hand tightly as he kept her off the ground. Suddenly, Kushina gasped for air, her eyes shooting from closed to impossibly wide, as if she had just awakened from some horrible nightmare. Minato let out a sigh of relief. You're okay. Kushina looked down at her hands. Is it over? Is it sealed away? She asked. Hiruzen nodded. The battle is over. The beast is back inside of you. Everything is okay now. Where's Naruto? She immediately asked. Minato and Kushina looked back. Monkey King Enma walked over and gently scooped the infant up, cradling his neck with his hand and pulling him into the fuzzy white fur of his body. He brought the child over and handed him to his mother. Kushina held the baby as Minato looked on. Their smile was sweet as Hiruzen watched. He was convinced that both of them had forgotten what they'd just been through. It was funny. Women always tended to scream bloody murder during birthing, and for good reason. The pain was such that Hiruzen wondered if even the strongest men had the constitution to do what they did. But after the birth, they no longer seemed to care about their pain. It was as if that were the furthest thing from their mind, and now he was seeing it happen again. Just as Biwako had done, Kushina was also doing this, and it was sweet. It was then that he stopped and thought about it. "Minato?" Hiruzen asked. Minato looked up with a smile. "Yes?" Hiruzen feared asking this, worrying that it might taint the moment, but he couldn't help it. He needed to know. Whether yes or no, he needed confirmation. The question lingering in the air, the lack of closure to this situation, it was as torturous as anything else. "Minato, where is Biwako?" Minato's face twisted in horror as the question was the one thing Minato did not want to tell Hiruzen and wasn't prepared to. That expression alone told Hiruzen everything he needed to know. So she is dead. Minato's eyes closed as he let out a sigh in defeat, as though he had failed in some way to deliver the news in a way he thought proper. "I'm sorry, Hiruzen." Hiruzen wasn't mad at Minato by any means. This was always the possibility, and Biwako knew the risk when she chose to do this, electing that it would be far better for her to help than to stay safely away. But it didn't make it hurt any less. Hiruzen was a widower now. He remembered only earlier that evening kissing his wife as she left to help Kushina deliver, and now he knew that he would not do so again until he too had passed on. Enma returned to Hiruzen's side and threw his arm over his shoulder preemptively, to keep him on his feet should the older fellow pass out from shock. "I'm truly sorry, Hiruzen," Minato said. The next day, the sun began to rise. Nobody had gone to bed, nor had they slept. They were still on a search and rescue mission, trying to pull as many as still lived from the rubble, and collecting bodies for burial. Minato was at the forefront of the efforts, directing people based on information and the likelihood of survivors. He pointed to the places that he knew had the most people during the attack, sending the majority of able-bodied men there while sending the others to check the places that were far less likely to have people. Voices cried out for responses, asking that those who could speak to call for help. Some voices from the rubble responded, others didn't. Many survivors were found, and cadavers who'd been hidden by rubble and ruins as well. The bodies of the nurses that helped deliver Naruto, as well as Biwako, were recovered. But what astounded Hiruzen wasn't that his wife was crushed to death. No. She was torn asunder by a blade. He had seen the Sharingan in the Eye of the Ninetales, but only just now he was beginning to understand just how involved someone else was in this attack. This was far more than simple actions out of opportunity. This was premeditated. Somebody wanted them dead, and Minato had seen and fought with that person personally. They weren't normal, Minato said. They covered their face well and called themselves Madara Uchiha. But when I struck them, their arms slipped from their body like tar, as though there weren't truly flesh and bone, but some substance. It looked disgusting and smelled of dying foliage. Something was unusual about its body, he said. Hiruzen understood. They collected a sample of the arm that had been left behind by the being that Minato fought, and found that it already began to sprout into a tree. It was unusual. Plucking the remains of the arm up, they studied it, and found it to be similar to the culture of cells that had been left over from Hashirama Senju. Supposing this to mean that the culprit had to be a man with only one arm, they sought any Uchiha that matched that description, and there were few. And none seemed capable of doing what they had been doing. Fugaku assured the Hokage, as well as Hiruzen, that the Uchiha were not to blame, and Minato believed him. He said he wouldn't understand why the Uchiha would want to destroy the village out of the blue anyway, especially when the vast majority were attempting to protect it during that time anyway. And so, the suspicions were dropped. They elected to believe that it was a single suspect, working alone, and that as of yet there were no co-conspirators. They kept studying, but found nobody who matched their description. Due to that, Minato excluded the Uchiha clan as a whole from scrutiny, and began to search for individuals, missing nin, and other people who had attained a Sharingan during the war as potential subjects. With the case going cold, there wasn't much that they could do besides put it on the back burner. Hiruzen helped Minato begin with the rebuilding efforts, but as he did, he began to notice something in Minato's behavior. He seemed to be really upset. How so, Hiruzen couldn't understand. There was a bit of rage in his eyes, and a spark of judgment whenever he looked at certain people out in the village, and besides that, he seemed to be a lot more melancholic. Hiruzen had thought that surely this was brought on by the death and destruction they had seen, and he wanted to ask Minato about it, but as he watched, he noticed what looked to be Minato giving certain village members hard times when it came to granting subsidies for the rebuilding of businesses. This was uncharacteristic of Minato, who, up to that point, had made it clear to Hiruzen his intent to continually work to ensure that the village was exactly what it needed to be to get back to normal as quickly as possible. But now it felt almost as though he were gatekeeping, and it felt off. He asked Minato what was wrong and why he was acting in such a way, but Minato had decided to keep it to himself. He told Hiruzen that everything was fine, and that he shouldn't bother with it. Hiruzen knew he wasn't going to get anything out of Minato, and so he decided to ask Kushina about it, but she was as tight-lipped about it as Minato was. Hiruzen tried to coax an answer out of her, but she wouldn't give one up to him, no matter how much he asked. And so, with no other choice, he did what any self-respecting shinobi would do, and decided to simply spy. After all, he was an old man, and he was retired from his career as an active member in the Konoha forces, serving only as aid when needed and as an advice giver to Minato. This meant he had a lot of free time and very few responsibilities, so he would follow Kushina around. Everywhere she went, he wasn't far behind. For a time, everything seemed to be normal, but he began to notice things were slightly off. As she walked through the market, women she used to stop and talk to she wouldn't even pay attention to, and store owners' reactions to her presence was unusual as well. Seeing her coming, some would spontaneously close up shop to go on break, even if it was during illogical times. Some people who served her would do so without smiling at her or even making eye contact, despite the fact that such behavior was not common with other customers. He witnessed people standing behind her look at her and stare before whispering to each other, cupped hands over mouths as they got closer to each other's ears, before turning to stare more. This was unusual behavior that Hiruzen had never seen before, and by the looks of Kushina's movements, she sensed it too and didn't do anything. She just stood there silently, pretending to sample wares before moving on. Something was wrong with the scene. And so, as Kushina got home again, Hiruzen decided to pay her another visit. Kushina would open up. "Oh, Lord Third, what can I do for you?" she asked with a wide smile, as though nothing ever happened. "Please, Kushina. We've known each other long enough for you to call me Hiruzen." Kushina smiled brightly. "What brings you here, Hiruzen? Do you want to stay for dinner?" "I was just checking in on you is all," he said. In the background, the sound of a baby crying could be heard. "Would you like to come in?" she asked. Hiruzen nodded. Stepping in, he closed the door behind him. Going to the couch, he sat down as Kushina called out that she would be with him in a moment. From where he sat, he could see into the kitchen where Kushina was holding Naruto and checking on the state of supper's final touches. She came into the living room and sat down on the couch as well, taking out a bottle and offering it to the little blonde monster, who grabbed at it with such vigor and viciousness that even Hiruzen was surprised. "He sure seems hungry," he said. Kushina nodded. "Yeah, he's got an appetite like his father. You should see Minato at supper when it's just us. He eats everything on the plate and then starts gnawing on the dishes before I've even started." She laughed. Hiruzen offered a slight chuckle of his own as he thought about it. Slowly, his smile faded, which Kushina noticed. "Is there a reason you wanted to see me?" she asked, knowing he looked like he had something on his mind he wanted to share. "Well," he thought about it. "Yes, actually. I was just wondering if you've noticed anything recently." She shook her head. "Noticed what?" Hiruzen shrugged. "Just stuff. With the rest of the village's civilians, they seem different." "Well, they've gone through a lot. Of course they would seem different," she said as she nuzzled Naruto, who was sucking that bottle drier than Death Valley. "Well, I mean, something a bit different than that. They seem cold, but not to everyone." Kushina's movements came to a screeching halt. She knew what he was asking about, and he knew that she knew. "Kushina, what's going on?" he asked. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said. Hiruzen then came out with it. "Minato's been acting strange at work, more worried than before, and he's been coming across somewhat hostile to certain people who come to see him. I asked him about it, but he wouldn't tell me what was wrong. Minato always tells me when something's wrong, but he would not tell me. He played it off like nothing, but I know better. I know something's up," Hiruzen said. "Then when I asked you about it, I got the same stonewall." A moment passed between them before Hiruzen continued. I needed to know what was happening, so I decided to follow you to the market. Kushina snapped her head toward Hiruzen quickly, as though offended by the audacity of the man. You were spying on me? She questioned, her voice sounding as offended as her expression seemed. Hiruzen nodded. I know. That breaks the trust of privacy, and I wouldn't have done it to such trusted, loyal friends otherwise. But when you are both hiding something important from me, stuff that affects how the village is being run, and you won't tell me about it, I get worried. I need to know what's going on, why you're acting like this. These are private matters, Sarutobi, she said, using his surname, which told Hiruzen how upset she was. I know. As I said, I wouldn't pry otherwise, but you two should know that I view you both with the same love that I view my own children, and I need to be able to help you when I see an issue. So forgive me for caring too much. I just needed to be able to help. Kushina took a deep breath and let it out with a sigh, seemingly letting go of the anger. It's okay. Just don't do it again. Hiruzen nodded. I wouldn't do it if I wasn't scared for you. I understand. So, what's going on, Kushina? Why are people treating you this way? Whispering behind your back, avoiding you, seeming upset to see you. A long silence passed between them. Do you know? He asked. I know, she said. Why are they treating you this way? Because I guess they blame me, she said. Blame you? Kushina nodded. I'm the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. It's my job to carry the Nine-Tails. It got out and killed a lot of people's friends and family. And they decided that they're going to take their frustrations out on you. That's ludicrous, Hiruzen said. That's exactly what Minato said, Kushina replied. It's not that big of a deal though, it doesn't bother me. Hiruzen sat there. Are you sure about that? She nodded her head, though her expression told him that this was a lie. Hiruzen drew a little closer. Kushina, are you okay? Slowly, the facade began to break as tears rolled down her cheek. She shook her head no. Hiruzen wrapped his arms around her as she leaned into his shoulder, Naruto still in her arms, sucking the air itself out of that bone-dry bottle. It doesn't feel good, Hiruzen. A lot of those people were my friends, and now they act like they don't even know me. I don't have anyone left. Only Makoto, and she's a good friend, and I'm blessed to have her. But I had so many others too, and they've all abandoned me. I'm basically alone now. And worst of all, I understand their reactions. I do deserve this, to be a pariah. No, you don't. Don't speak like that, Kushina. You didn't do anything wrong. But I did, she said. I'm the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. It's my responsibility to protect the village from the Nine-Tails and only use the beast in dire situations, under only the Hokage's orders. But I let it out. You didn't let it out, Hiruzen said. You were captured, and they pulled it out of you. You almost died. You didn't have a choice. I'm certain there was something else I could do, she said. Kushina, you are giving birth. No Jinchuriki can do those two things at the same time. You need to understand. Everything was going well until you were attacked. It's not your fault. You are the victim in this. Tell that to everyone else, she said. They know that the Nine-Tails was commanded by enemies of the village. They still blame me for not stopping them. Hiruzen was shocked to hear this. Even still, they blame the Uchiha, because the villain had a Sharingan. They blame the Uchiha for the events that happened that day. Makoto was just telling me about it the other day, she said. What actually happened doesn't matter to them. It was who was involved. Because I'm the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, they blame me for the beast going free. And because the Sharingan was present in the beast's eye, the Uchiha are blamed. Makoto can only ever call me. She can't come and visit me or walk with me without receiving death threats and getting harassed. Death threats? Hiruzen questioned. Kushina, this is serious. I know, she said. Minato's been thinking up ways to take care of it, but he's so furious about it that he can't even think straight. Hiruzen nodded. I can understand. I'm not even in his position and I'm feeling pissed off. But there's nothing we can do but ignore it, she said. As much as Hiruzen hated to admit it, she was right. People were going to be hateful regardless of what was said. The Nine-Tails attack had scarred everyone, and that pain had resulted in the Nine-Tails, as well as its Jinchuriki, getting a bad name. Even worse, the Uchiha are getting fed up with the way they're being treated. Makoto told me Fugaku is nearly set to go down a warpath. I worry what might happen if he and Minato get hooked up together. There's no telling what their anger might do. The head of Shinobi and the head of the police force together being pissed off about the same thing doesn't bode well. Hiruzen knew this was true. Though he didn't expect Minato and Fugaku to take any extreme measures, he knew that he needed to get ahead of this before people got hurt. And so, after leaving, Hiruzen informed Minato of what he had learned and got confirmation from the Hokage. With Minato's permission, Hiruzen would set up a meeting between all the clan heads and important members of the village to have a conversation about the state of things and how to better and more healthily deal with their pain. He explained to them the truth, the facts, the evidence they had, and gave them all the whole point of view that he possessed. Minato and Fugaku shared their stories and frustrations, as did the civilians who were there to talk constructively. They explained that they were upset in a way that seemed understandable to Minato and Fugaku. Kushina being introduced to the situation, something Kushina didn't want to do but Hiruzen recommended, caused heightened hostility between the two parties as insults began to pass back and forth. Hiruzen was the one to call order back between the two and remind everyone of why they were there. It was through Kushina's testimony, which brought tears to her own eyes, that both sides began to truly see the effects and why everyone was so upset. In the end, Hiruzen didn't have to do anything else. Kushina merely explaining herself to them, telling them how she felt, and what happened that night was enough to cause the civilians to think about it. What sealed the deal was Kushina's heartfelt apology, and her explanation of the guilt she felt, how she blamed herself, something even Minato didn't know she was doing. After this, the people went back to their lives. Word of what happened in that meeting spread far and wide within the village, with people's opinions slowly changing. It was then that the village truly began to heal. Instead of being angry at Kushina and the Uchiha, they began to put their anger towards something more constructive, like finding the man responsible, something Minato vowed to do. Through helping the village heal, Hiruzen felt as though he were helping himself heal. And as he watched the sunset upon a unified village, he smiled. Biwako, I hope you're watching. And that's where I want to call it. Frankly, this seems like a complete story to me. After all, if I continue from here, it becomes less of a Hiruzen-centered story and more of a what if Naruto's parents survived story, which of course I might do sometime. And if you guys like this video, maybe I'll make that video be a sequel or successor to this one, based in the same universe. If that's something you guys would like to see me do, tell me in the comments about it. Anyway, what did you think? Are there any other things you'd like to see moving forward? Let us know. And if you enjoyed and feel so inclined, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that bell to be notified when we drop more videos like this. Be sure to check out these other videos from our channel, and until next time, peace out.